By the late 13th century, Osman Ghazi's ambitions had begun to reshape the landscape of northwestern Anatolia. His principality, though still in its infancy, was becoming an undeniable force on the Byzantine frontier. The Ottomans were no longer just a small band of Turkic raiders. They had transformed into an organized and expanding power. However, with growth came enemies. Among the Byzantine landlords who still controlled the fortresses of Bithynia, one man stood out as Osman's first major rival, Nicola, the powerful ruler of Angelicoma. Osman's expansion into Byzantine territory had not gone unnoticed. The Byzantine lords of Bithynia, who had ruled these lands for centuries, saw Osman's growing power as a direct threat to their authority. They had tolerated Turkic mercenaries and raiders in the past, but Osman was different. He was not just a warlord, he was building a state. Among those most alarmed by Osman's rise was Nicola, who controlled Angelicoma and several surrounding fortresses. A seasoned commander and a shrewd strategist, Nicola understood that if Osman was left unchecked, he would soon dominate the entire region. In an effort to contain Osman's expansion, Nicola launched a series of harassing raids on Kayı settlements near Söğüt and Domanis. His forces burned farmlands and grain stores, attempting to starve the Kayı out, ambushed Ottoman patrols, eliminating scouts and disrupting communications, and attacked caravans and supply lines, crippling the tribe's ability to sustain itself. For Osman, these provocations were intolerable. So, the heart of his principality depended on trade and agriculture. If Nicola was allowed to continue his attacks, the stability of the Kayı Beylik would be in jeopardy. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, Osman convened a war council with his most trusted commanders. Together, they devised a plan to confront Nicola and put an end to his aggression. Osman knew that defeating Nicola would not be simple. Angelicoma was well fortified, and the Byzantines had numerical superiority. Instead of launching a direct siege, Osman decided to draw Nicola into battle in a more favorable setting. Osman's plan was bold. He would march his forces toward Angelicoma, making it appear as though he intended to attack the fortress directly. This would force Nicola to respond by sending out his forces to intercept the Ottomans before they could lay siege. What Osman did not know, however, was that Nicola had anticipated this move. Instead of waiting inside the walls of Angelicoma, Nicola had prepared an ambush at Ertuğrul, a narrow valley just outside the town. The valley's steep cliffs and dense forests made it an ideal location for a trap. The Byzantines could strike from the high ground, while Ottoman forces would be bottlenecked in the valley below. As Osman and his men advanced through the valley, Byzantine archers hidden among the rocks rained down arrows from above. The Byzantine infantry, waiting on the slopes, charged down the hills, surrounding the Ottomans on both sides. The battle was brutal. Caught in a disadvantageous position, the Ottomans struggled to break through the Byzantine lines. The Byzantines had the upper hand, pressing forward with their heavily armored cavalry. Among the Ottoman casualties was Bey Hoca, Osman's nephew and one of his most promising young warriors. Bey Hoca had been one of Osman's closest companions, and his loss was a devastating blow to the Kayı morale. Despite the grim situation, Osman refused to surrender. Gathering his remaining warriors, he led a desperate charge through a weakened section of the Byzantine line. After a fierce struggle, he managed to break free from the encirclement, retreating back to Söğüt with his surviving forces. The Battle of Ertuğrul was Osman's first major defeat, but it was not a decisive one. Although the Byzantines had won the day, they had failed to destroy Osman's army. For Nicola, the victory was not complete. Osman had escaped, and despite suffering losses, the Kayı tribe remained intact. Moreover, Nicola's forces had taken casualties as well, preventing them from launching a full-scale invasion of Söğüt. For Osman, the defeat at Ertuğrul was a painful lesson, one that would shape his future strategies. He had underestimated Nicola's tactical prowess, and he had learned firsthand the dangers of fighting in terrain not suited to his cavalry-based forces. Though the battle had ended in a stalemate, Osman did not see it as the end of the conflict. If anything, Nicola's victory had only strengthened Osman's resolve. Vowing to avenge Bey Hoka and secure the Kayu's frontier, Osman immediately began preparations for a renewed offensive against Angelikoma. But this time, he would not make the same mistake. Instead of rushing into battle, Osman took a more calculated approach. He strengthened alliances with neighboring Turkic tribes, ensuring a larger army for the next campaign. Osman studied Nicola's defensive positions, identifying weak points in the Byzantine fortifications, and devised new tactics, incorporating guerrilla warfare and prolonged sieges instead of head-on confrontations. Osman's defeat at Ermenibeli was only the beginning. The war for Angelikoma was far from over, and the Byzantines had not yet seen the full might of the Kayı warriors. Soon, Osman would return, and this time he would ensure that Nicola's reign over Inegol came to an end forever. Angelikoma stood as a major obstacle to Osman's continued expansion and ambitions. The town's Byzantine lord, Nicola, had already proven to be a dangerous adversary, defeating Osman's forces at the ambush of Ermenibeli. However, Osman was a leader who learned from his failures. Instead of launching a reckless attack on Angelikoma, he turned his attention to a smaller, yet strategically vital target, the fortress of Kulakahisar. Kulakahisar was more than just a fortress. It was the gateway to Angelikoma. Situated just 5 kilometers east of Angelikoma, it guarded the approach to the town. The fortress housed a significant Byzantine garrison, serving as a military outpost that could intercept Ottoman movements. It was heavily fortified, boasting thick stone walls, wooden watchtowers, and a garrison of trained Byzantine soldiers. And more importantly, the fortress secured Byzantine supply lines, allowing provisions and reinforcements to be sent from other strongholds in the region. Osman understood that if he attacked Angelikoma directly, the Byzantines would simply reinforce it from Kulakahisar. However, if Kulakahisar was taken first, Nicola would be left defenseless, his stronghold cut off from the rest of the Byzantine network. Realizing that a direct assault on Kulakahisar's fortified walls would be costly, Osman devised a bold and unconventional strategy. Instead of laying a prolonged siege which could take months, Osman opted for a surprise attack under the cover of night. His plan relied on stealth, deception, and precision, qualities that had made the Ottomans such dangerous opponents in the frontier wars. Osman handpicked a small band of his most elite warriors, disguising them as Byzantine soldiers. These warriors, fluent in Greek and familiar with Byzantine military customs, would infiltrate the fortress by pretending to be a returning patrol. Dressed in captured Byzantine armor and cloaks, the Ottoman infiltrators approached the fortress gates under the guise of a scouting party returning from patrol. Speaking in fluent Greek, they convinced the gatekeepers to open the main gate. As soon as the gate swung open, the Ottoman warriors struck, silencing the guards before they could raise the alarm. With the gate secured from the inside, Osman and his 450 warriors stormed the fortress. Scaling ladders were deployed, allowing Ottoman soldiers to climb the walls while Byzantine defenders were still in a state of confusion. Turgut Alp led a frontal charge toward the main courtyard, cutting down Byzantine troops as they scrambled to arm themselves. The Byzantines, caught off guard, attempted to rally, but Osman's swift tactics prevented them from forming a proper defense. Within a matter of hours, the fortress had fallen, and the Ottoman flag was raised over Kulakahisar. Osman did not simply capture Kulakahisar, he destroyed it. The fortress was set ablaze, its walls demolished, ensuring that it could never be used against the Ottomans again. Byzantine prisoners were given a choice: join the Ottomans or be expelled. Many of the local Greek population chose to stay, recognizing Osman's policy of tolerance and his ability to protect them from the constant warfare that plagued the frontier. The fall of Kulakahasar was a major turning point. Without its defensive garrison, Angelikoma was now completely exposed. Nikola was forced to withdraw his remaining troops, pulling them back behind the walls of Angelikoma itself. News of Osman's victory spread quickly, bolstering his reputation as an unstoppable leader and attracting more Turkic warriors to his cause. But this triumph came with consequences. The Byzantine landlords, realizing the growing Ottoman threat, began plotting their counterattack. The fall of Kulakahasar sent shockwaves through the Byzantine territories of Bithynia. Nikola, now on the defensive, desperately sought aid from his Byzantine allies. He knew that if Osman was not stopped, it would only be a matter of time before Angelikoma itself fell into Ottoman hands. Nikola sent an urgent plea for reinforcements to the Lord of Karakahisar, another major Byzantine fortress in the region. Recognizing the danger posed by Osman, the two commanders formed an alliance, rallying an army numbering in the thousands. Their objective was clear: eradicate Osman's principality before it could grow any stronger. Osman, ever the strategist, anticipated the Byzantine response. Rather than waiting to be attacked, he began preparing his defenses. Key settlements like Söğüt were fortified, with barricades and watchtowers built around entry points. Guerrilla forces were stationed in forests and mountain passes, ready to ambush enemy supply lines, and messengers were sent to neighboring Turkic clans, calling for reinforcements. Osman's forces were smaller, but they had a crucial advantage. They were fighting on familiar terrain. Instead of facing the Byzantine army head-on, Osman's plan was to draw them into the mountainous terrain near Domanis, where their numerical superiority would be nullified. The battle for Ottoman survival was about to begin. The Byzantine army marched towards Söğüt, determined to crush the Ottoman uprising once and for all. Two powerful lords had combined their forces, bringing thousands of Byzantine soldiers to bear against Osman's far smaller army. But numbers alone do not win wars. Osman had proven time and again that his superior strategy, knowledge of the terrain, and unwavering faith in his cause could overcome even the mightiest adversaries. As the Byzantine army closed in, Osman and his warriors stood ready, prepared to fight not just for their own survival, but for the future of an empire yet to be born. And so, as the two armies faced off on the rugged hills of Domanis, the next great chapter of Osman's legendary journey was about to unfold.